Hello, my name is Dr. Scott Young with Hearing Solutions Centers, and today we're going to talk about the grossest things we've found in ears. Coming right up. The grossest things, well, firstly, I'm going to talk about the furry ear. You see, sometimes people will put cotton down in their ear and it can get infected or have the other infectious fluids in there from an external ear infection. We can have wax that moves across it. And then other times it's not either of those things. It's a fungal infection. So it's not anything else that gets around it. It's just the fungal infection involved. And that looks like a little cross of white strands that comes across the ear. Now, I saw a fungal infection the other day that is a blackish, and it's black splotchiness all over the eardrum. That's one of the things. Now, it doesn't normally have a smell unless it's infected around it, but it can as well. The second one is what I call otis cockroaches. So this has got to be 25 years ago, and I had this guy working for me. His name is Rick, but we always call him Rickles because he was always hair on fire, everything he did. You got to come see this. So I go and look at his patient. I first look at the hearing aids because it's saying that there's a scratching kind of noise in there. And when I looked in the ear, of course, there was a cockroach laying on its back, scratching into the ear canal. And I had to look at it real closely because she wanted me to take it out, and I was unsure, and but it wasn't too far down there, so I finally got it out of there. And yeah, just amazing. Because not 3 weeks later, our front office person, Naomi, brought her mom in. And her mom also wore our hearing aids. And yet this cockroach was down there, and it was so far deep in the ear that it was touching almost up against the eardrum. And I wasn't sure that it hadn't eaten through the eardrum. And I actually sent that one to an ear, nose, and throat physician to have it flushed out, because they're probably going to have to do some other gross things just to take care of it. Number 3, we had a patient that came in with my other audiologist, Dr. Kathleen Sameo, and she was hearing a pounding noise. So now sometimes hearing aids can make a pounding noise. It's either a microphone that's kind of going bad and it makes a crazy kind of noise. Sometimes there are crazy circuit noises that can happen to hearing aids. And that's why we're here to be able to take care of electrical problems that can happen with our hearing aids. But as she took the hearing aid out, she's checking it out a little bit. And the patient says, I still hear that pounding noise. It's like when my son, when he lived at home and he was living upstairs, it's like bam, 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 all the way upstairs. Now, as a parent as well, my son always makes a lot of loud noises as he walks around the stairway. He's never stealthy. And she was noticing that in her ears. Well, Dr. Kathleen kind of looks in her ears and sees a spider. A spider that had crawled into the ear canal. It was all the way up against the eardrum, and the feet were just... How do you deal with that kind of stuff? First off, we were able to wash that one out of the ear, but here's the thing. It's either we have a really tough living environment, or the person's not taking care of themselves, in a hygienic way. Those are some of the possibilities. The last one I want to talk about is the Cholesteatoma. Now, a Cholesteatoma is a tumor, and it's a really smelly tumor, and we'll talk a little bit about the smell here in a second. But it can happen near the eardrum, so it pushes up against the eardrum in the ear canal. It can go in between the eardrum and so the middle ear space and the external ear space are in that ear canal. It can be all the way in the middle ear space and pushes the other direction against the eardrum. And I've seen it all 3 types. And when it does that, what they have to do is go in and excise or cut it out. And if it's just in the ear canal, they can kind of take it out, clean it up, patch up the skin around there. If it's through that eardrum, they're going to take it out, clean out the ear, flush it all out, but then they're going to have to redo the eardrum. And I mean, it can really mess up the eardrum to all the way to the point of that tympanoplasty. Now, tympanoplasty, like we've told you about before, is they have to remake that eardrum all the way through and through. Now, to give you an idea about the smell, these are not people who have had a problem with hygiene, but they smell really bad. It's like rotten flesh. Now, as you walk in the door of our office, you'll smell it instantaneously. Now, it's like an infected, rotten flesh that can happen. And it always makes me think about my World War II studies. You see, as the Allies were moving in '44 all the way westward, and the Soviets were coming from the east into Poland and then into Germany later on, they ran across camps. And these were concentration camps. And especially in the Allies, when they came across the biggest camp that they had first come into contact with, which was Dachau. And Dachau had Jewish prisoners, and they also had millions of other undesirables. And the people of the towns around it said, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know anything about this. And the reality is, you can smell hundreds of thousands of people burning all around. I'm not trying to devolve into this kind of lesson, but what I want you to understand is that when you see it, when you smell the grossest things of the world, it's unmistakable. It's unmistakable. And that's exactly what happens in the Cholesteatoma. So again, they can flush that out, kind of clean that out, make sure it's taken care of, but it's possible for that cholesteatoma to come back. Now, you might think, well, I got a couple of more. I'd love you to leave some comments down below of something you have heard about, something that maybe has happened to you. We could answer that a little bit, but always in those cases, you probably need to see your audiologist to have it looked at, and or see your ear, nose, and throat physician, because it's something that really needs to be taken care of. And they have to get medications, but you can see it through that audiologist's eyes first if you'd like to. So we're Hearing Solution Center. Subscribe down below. Leave us some comments about some of the grossest things you've found as well. Thank you so much.